The bank they trust with your money was fined $920 million for selling silver that didn't exist, and they never told you. And there is so much more to this story that you need to know. Stay with me and learn the rest of the story, including the secret 1974 communique that recently was made public.
This is the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
Welcome to the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good and bad about money. This is Robert Kiyosaki, and today is just you and me. And we're talking about what the rich are teaching their kids about money. This time I want to tell you about something that happened last December, something that had never happened before in 50 years of silver trading. In 4 trading days, 47.6 million ounces of silver were pulled from COMEX vaults in New York City, the very vaults that hold the silver for trading futures. 60% of their entire registered inventory gone in less than a week. No robbery, no disaster, no breaking news alert on your phone. Now, here is a question nobody on CNBC asked. If 60% of the real silver left the vault, did the price of silver futures drop 60%? Did it drop 40, 20? No, the price barely moved. Think about that. 60% of the physical inventory walked out the door, and the number on your screen didn't blink. Most people look at that and think, okay, the market is stable, everything is fine. I look at that and think those are two completely different things. The price on your screen and the silver leaving that vault have almost nothing to do with each other anymore. That is the most important financial signal of this decade. Here is what most people do not understand. When you buy silver through your brokerage account, when you click the button and buy SLV or any silver ETF, what do you own? Most people would say silver. They would be wrong. Let me explain this simply, because the complexity is exactly how the system hides it. Think of an orange. Set it on a table. It just sits there, stable. You know exactly what it is. Now squeeze it. Pour the juice on that same table. It goes everywhere. You've lost control of it. It spreads. It runs off the edge. Unstable. That's what a derivative is. The further you get from the real thing, the more unstable it becomes. The real thing is a bar of silver sitting in a vault. The first derivative is a futures contract, a paper promise to deliver that silver later. The second derivative is an ETF built on top of those futures contracts, a promise built on a promise, even less stable. Now here's where it gets important. The COMEX had 103 million ounces of real silver in those vaults, against 760 million ounces of paper claims. 7 paper ounces for every single real ounce. And people get angry when I say this. They say, Robert, that's impossible. There are regulations. There is oversight. That's what they told you. JPMorgan is a custodian of the SLV, the silver ETF that millions of Americans own right now. JPMorgan was fined $920 million for manipulating the price of silver, for selling silver into futures markets that they never owned. The very bank entrusted to hold your silver was caught selling silver that did not exist, and the SLV's own legal prospectus was quietly amended to warn you that the silver may not be there. Hear that again. The fund's own documents now warn you the silver may not be there. So let me be very direct. Real silver and paper silver are not similar investments. They are not two versions of the same thing. They are not conservative and aggressive options in the same category. They are completely different things. Real silver has existed on this earth for billions of years. It cannot be printed. It cannot be created by a bank writing a number on a screen. You either hold it or you don't. It either exists or it doesn't. Paper silver is a claim. It is a promise. It is a chain of intermediaries, a broker, a fund company, a custodian bank, a clearing system, a futures exchange, any one of which can fail, any one of which can simply not have what it promised you. 60% of them left that vault in 4 trading days, and the price didn't move. That's not stability. That's a signal. My rich dad said, when you see something that makes no sense, follow it, because the explanation, when you find it, is always worth knowing. I found the explanation. It is a declassified government document, and what is written in that document will change the way you look at every paper asset you own. When we come back, I'm going to read you a government cable written 50 years ago by the people who designed the system you are investing in right now. It is going to make you furious. And if it doesn't, I don't know what to say. Stay with me. We were talking about a signal, a vault draining, a price that didn't move. Now I'm going to show you who designed that gap and why. I was in high school in 1964, caddying for golf, got paid in quarters. One afternoon I noticed something. One of the quarters had a copper tinge around the edge. The older quarters, the real ones, had silver edges, clean. The new ones did not. Something triggered in me. I didn't know what it meant yet, but I knew something was wrong. I started going to the bank, buying rolls of dimes and quarters. I'd unwrap them, pull out the real silver coins, the ones minted before 1964, return the fake ones to the bank, over and over. I was building a bag of real money. What I had stumbled into without knowing the name for it was Gresham's Law. Bad money drives out good money. In 1964, the government had quietly begun debasing its silver coins, mixing in base metals, exactly the way the Roman Empire debased its coins as it began to collapse. By the time I left for college, I had a large cloth bag filled with pre-1964 silver coins. When I came home for Christmas, the bag was gone. My mother had found it, spent every coin. She did not know what they were. The schools never taught her. That is a cost of not knowing the difference between real money and fake money. My mother paid bills, went shopping using real silver she never knew was worth saving. Now, fast forward 7 years, 1971. I am 25 years old, Marine Corps pilot, flying off an aircraft carrier in Vietnam, second tour. I thought I understood how the world worked. Then a letter arrived from my rich dad. It was short. President Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. Watch out. The world is about to change. What Nixon did on August 15, 1971, was one of the most consequential acts in modern financial history. He severed the link between the U.S. dollar and gold, the Bretton Woods Agreement, signed in 1944 by 44 nations, every dollar backed by gold. The U.S. dollar, the global reserve currency. America holds the gold, the world holds dollars. Those dollars were as good as gold. But then, in 1971, Nixon broke that promise. My poor dad heard the news and went back to work, saved his dollars, trusted the system, trusted his pension. He believed the people in charge knew what they were doing. My rich dad wrote back, "The dollar is now officially monopoly money." That's the difference. My poor dad worked harder for money worth less and less every year. He saved. He sacrificed. He did everything the system told him to do. He died without understanding why it didn't work. My rich dad understood that the moment Nixon severed the dollar from gold, the rules had changed. The rich who understood those new rules would get very rich. The people who didn't would spend their lives working harder and harder for money worth less and less. Think about it. Every dollar printed after 1971 is not backed by anything real. It is backed by debt. The U.S. dollar has lost over 95% of its purchasing power since 1913. Savers are losers, not because they lack discipline, because the system was designed to punish the people who hold paper. Now, here is what most people do not know. 3 years after Nixon killed the gold standard, a plan was put into writing. A plan to make sure that when Americans were finally allowed to own gold and silver again, most of them would end up owning paper instead. This is why you need to be listening to this show. When we come back, I am going to read you a government cable sent from the U.S. Embassy in London to Washington, D.C. 50 years ago. It names the biggest gold and silver dealers in the world, and it describes in their own words exactly why that price didn't move when 60% of the real silver left the vault. They designed it that way. They wrote it down. It is going to make you see the truth hiding in the shadows. So if you want to keep your head in the sand, turn this off. Otherwise, stay with me and have your eyes opened. December 10, 1974. U.S. Embassy, London, England. 21 days before COMEX gold and silver futures trading opened for the very first time. 21 days before Americans were legally allowed to own gold again, after 40 years of it being banned. The timing is not a coincidence. The cable describes a meeting. The biggest gold and silver dealers in London, Samuel Montague, Sharps Pixley, Mocatta and Goldsmith, Consolidated Goldfields. These are not small players. These are the institutions that control the precious metals trade. Here is what they said. I am going to read this directly. The major impact of private U.S. ownership, according to the dealers' expectations, will be the formation of a sizable gold futures market. Each of the dealers expressed the belief that the futures market would be of significant proportion and physical trading would be minuscule by comparison. Did you hear that? Physical trading would be minuscule by comparison. And then this. This is the sentence that matters. Large volume futures dealing would create a highly volatile market. In turn, the volatile price movements would diminish the initial demand for physical holding and most likely negate long-term hoarding by U.S. citizens. Read that again. Negate long-term hoarding by U.S. citizens. They wrote it down. The entire purpose of the futures market, the same paper market pricing silver on your screen right now, was to make the real thing look too risky to hold, to push Americans away from physical metal and into paper. And people say, Robert, you are a conspiracy theorist. No, I am reading you the conspiracy in their own words, signed, sent, declassified. This is what actually happened. Now, most people don't realize the same mechanism, the same scheme, it has run before. In 1929, Americans walked into their banks and asked for their money back. The banks didn't have it. They had lent it out, leveraged it, made promises on top of promises. And when enough people showed up at the same window at the same time, the whole structure came down. My poor dad was taught that the Great Depression of 1929 was a failure of capitalism, something the system had fixed. There were safeguards now, the FDIC, new laws, new oversight. It could never happen again. My rich dad saw it differently. He said, they didn't fix it. They built the next version of the same scheme, and they made it bigger. What is happening in the silver market right now is the same play, same logic, far larger scale. In 1929, the banks lent out money that belonged to their depositors. In 2025, COMEX sold 760 million ounces of paper silver against 103 million ounces of real metal. The ratio is different. The mechanism is identical. The system works. It always works, right up until the moment it doesn't. And they are showing up now to collect their silver. Not retail investors clicking an app, industrial buyers, sovereign wealth funds, governments, institutions that cannot accept a paper promise. They need the actual metal in hand. When they showed up last December, 47.6 million ounces left COMEX vaults in 4 days. 60% of registered inventory gone in less than a week. The run has begun now. Here is why silver is not gold and why that matters enormously right now. Gold is hoarded. An estimated 95% of all the gold ever found in the history of this planet is still here, in a vault, in a central bank, around someone's neck. Gold accumulates. Silver is different. Silver gets used up. Electronics, solar panels, electric vehicles, medical equipment, water purification. It is consumed in production. An estimated 95% of all the silver ever mined has already been consumed. While gold accumulates over centuries, the available supply of real silver shrinks every single day. Two forces are working on silver right now. The monetary case, every fake dollar printed makes real money more valuable. The industrial case, silver is being consumed faster than it is being mined. Supply declining, demand increasing. Both forces pushing in the same direction. And now a third force, the unraveling of 50 years of deliberate suppression. Between 1971 and 1980, silver did not drift upward. It shot up 3,700%. The suppression gave way all at once, and the price reflected reality with a violence that caught almost everyone off guard. Almost everyone. The rich who saw it coming positioned themselves before the crowd figured it out. That is always how it works. I still have the first gold coin I bought in Hong Kong in 1972, a South African Krugerrand. I paid approximately $50. I have never sold it. I never will. Today that coin is worth roughly $3,000. Not because of a smart trade, not because I timed the market, because I understood what it was, real money, something that exists independently of any bank, any government, any promise. My poor dad trusted paper promises his whole life, his savings account, his pension, his financial planner, the number on the screen. He did everything the system told him to do. He stayed poor. He died without understanding why. My rich dad trusted the real thing. He held assets the system could not print, could not dilute, could not legislate away. The 1974 cable said the goal was to negate long-term hoarding by U.S. citizens. For 50 years, it worked. And then in 4 trading days last December, 47.6 million ounces of real silver walked out of a vault in New York City. The institutions that cannot afford to be wrong made their choice. They took the real thing. The vaults are telling you what is happening. The question is whether you know the difference between real money and fake money, the difference between real money and fake money. Thank you for your time. Thank you for caring about your future. Thank you for understanding that you are the only one who cares about taking care of you. Take care.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.